I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing all this out, but here we are. My name's Mike, and I've been with my wife, Lisa, for about 10 years now. We met young, got married pretty quick, and honestly, things seemed fine for a long time. She's always been a bit of a bitch, sharp-tongued, manipulative, the kind of woman who can flip the switch if she doesn't get her way. But I loved her, or at least I thought I did. We had a good life, a nice house, a kid, our son, Jimmy, and I never imagined anything could shatter that. At first, the signs started subtly. Lisa was acting a little distant, not as interested in even small things like chatting or sharing our evenings. She'd stay late at work, or suddenly have a ton of girls' nights she never mentioned before. I noticed her phone was glued to her hand more often, and she'd get defensive if I even tried to look at it. I think I knew, deep down, she was hiding something, but I brushed it off. I told myself maybe she was just stressed or busy. I mean, I could see the tension in her face sometimes, but I didn't want to believe she'd cheat, especially not on me. Then came the fights. Small ones at first, about her being late, about her dismissive attitude, about how she'd snap at me for the slightest thing. But I think I was already suspicious, just waiting for proof. I'd catch her lying about where she was going or who she was talking to, and that gnawed at me. I started snooping, not proud of it, but I couldn't help myself. I checked her phone, her emails, social media. Nothing concrete yet. Still, I was certain something was going on. I felt it in my gut, that terrible feeling of betrayal lurking just beneath the surface. One night, everything changed. I was home late from work, just thinking about the day and calming down, when I decided to check the surveillance footage from around our neighborhood. I'd heard about some missing equipment at Jimmy's school. Stuff went missing from the sports equipment room. Nothing major, just some balls, a few jerseys, nothing alarming on its own. But I figured, what the hell, I'd see if anything unusual had happened. I never expected to see what I saw. The footage showed Lisa sneaking into the equipment room after hours. That part didn't shock me, she'd do that if she was hiding something. But then I saw her really close, practically pressed up against someone. At first I thought maybe it was just a friend or coworker. But then I saw who she was with. It was Jimmy's football coach, a guy named Tom. And what they were doing, well, it was pretty clear. They weren't just talking. They were kissing, deep and sloppy, the kind of kiss you don't give someone if it's just a friendly gesture. My stomach dropped. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I replayed that clip a bunch of times, trying to process it. My wife Lisa cheating with our son's coach, an authority figure, someone I trusted with everything. I couldn't wrap my head around it. The audacity, the betrayal. My mind raced, tried to think of what to do next. I felt sick, angry, crushed all at once. How could she do this? How could she lie to me, pretend everything was fine, when she was out there in the equipment room, screwing around with a man who's supposed to be a mentor to our kid? I felt like I'd been sucker punched, like the ground had shifted beneath me. That footage was the first real proof I had, and from that moment, nothing in my world was the same anymore. I spent the night tossing and turning, replaying the footage over and over in my head. It's crazy how your mind can spiral into all kinds of thoughts in a moment like that. I kept asking myself why, how, and what the hell I was supposed to do now. I felt betrayed on every level, by my wife, by the person I thought was supposed to be my partner, and even by myself for not noticing sooner. I knew I had to confront her, but I didn't want to do it impulsively. I needed a plan, something cold and calculated so I wouldn't lose control. The next day, I decided I'd keep quiet for a bit, gather my thoughts, see if I could find anything else out. I didn't want to jump to conclusions or accuse her without proof. So I played it cool, watched her from a distance and tried to see if she slipped up again. But honestly, it was hard. She acted normal most of the time, except for the little things, her phone disappearing constantly, her defensive attitude when I asked about her whereabouts. She was good at covering her tracks, that's for sure. Then, I started digging more into the school's surveillance footage. I knew I could get hold of it if I asked around. Someone must have kept it, or maybe the school's security system stores it somewhere. I found out that the footage I saw was just a snippet. The camera had captured only a part of the event. I managed to get access to the full footage from a friend who worked there. When I watched it again, I saw more details. how Lisa kept looking over her shoulder, how she was nervous but still went through with it. She was caught in the act, no denying it now. The next step was pretty straightforward. I confronted her that evening, not yelling, just cold and direct. I told her I knew about the affair, about her sneaking into the equipment room with Tom after hours. Her reaction. She rolled her eyes, gave me that typical bitchy smirk, and started with her lies. "Oh, Mike, you're overreacting. You don't have any proof, you're just paranoid," she snapped. Then she added, "Honestly, I'm tired of your accusations. You think I'm cheating, then prove it, you damn stalker." Her voice was dripping with sarcasm, and I could see the flicker of disdain in her eyes. Like she didn't care about me, about the fact that she was screwing around with someone our kid looked up to. I felt my blood boiling. I wanted to rip her apart, yell at her, make her see how much she hurt me, but I kept my cool. I told her I had the footage, that I knew everything, and that I was done pretending everything was okay. Her reaction was just more of her typical bitchy attitude, denial, deflection, and insults. "You're crazy, Mike. I'd never do something like that. You're just jealous because I won't kiss your ass anymore." That's when I realized I couldn't trust anything she said. She'd lie her way out of it, as she always did when backed into a corner. That night hit me hard. I'd known she was a bitch, but this was a whole new level of betrayal. It was like everything I thought I knew about her, about us, was a lie. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, and the worst part was I didn't even know if I could come back from this. I'd always believed in honesty, loyalty, trust, and now none of that seemed to matter anymore. I looked at her sitting there, so smug, so full of herself, thinking she was untouchable. But I wasn't about to let her get away with it. Not without a fight. After confronting her, Lisa just sat there, smirking like she was completely unfazed. She had the nerve to act like I was the one overreacting, like I was the crazy one for catching her in the act. Honestly, I'd never felt so furious and helpless at the same time. She kept throwing back her usual insults about how I was some jealous idiot, how she was just tired of pretending, and that she needed something more exciting. That's when I realized this wasn't just a one-time thing, it was a pattern for her. She was the type of woman who couldn't keep her legs closed even if her life depended on it. I didn't waste any more time arguing. I told her if she wanted to be with Tom, then she could go ahead. Just don't bother pretending we're still a family. I was done, completely done. But even as I said that, I felt this massive weight on my chest, the kind that makes you question your entire life. I'd built everything around her, around us. And now it was all falling apart. I knew I had to do something, but I wasn't sure what yet. I just needed to breathe, to process what I'd just found out. Over the next few days, things got worse. Lisa kept up her act, acting like I was the crazy one for accusing her of anything. She'd walk around the house, acting as if nothing had changed, but I saw the flicker of guilt behind her eyes sometimes, just enough to keep me suspicious. Meanwhile, I started playing detective in my own way. I checked her phone, her emails, her social media activity. Nothing concrete, just the usual lies. She deleted messages, blocked calls, and kept her phone glued to her hand. But I had a feeling I was missing something. She was too slick, too good at covering her tracks. One evening, I decided to go the extra mile. I reached out to a friend who worked at the school, got access to the full security footage from the night she was in the equipment room. I watched it all again, trying to catch any detail I might have missed. And that's when I saw something that made my blood run cold. Lisa had left her phone on the bench outside the equipment room, and she didn't realize it. While she was in there, Tom had sent her a message. I paused it, played it again. Yeah, it was a selfie of her smiling in the mirror, her face close to Tom's. It wasn't just a kiss in secret. It was full-on flirting, blatant and shameless. She wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. That was the final nail in the coffin. I felt a mixture of rage, despair, and a strange sense of clarity. I couldn't keep pretending that this was just a misunderstanding or a mistake. She had been lying to me for months, probably longer, and I'd been too blind, too naive to see it. I knew I couldn't stay silent anymore. I had to confront her again, but this time with everything laid out on the table. I wanted her to see the damage she'd done, to understand how deeply she'd betrayed me, not just as a husband but as a father. I wasn't planning to ask for explanations anymore. I was done playing the fool. I was ready to face whatever came next. That night I sat her down again. She was acting like nothing had changed, like I was just overreacting again. But this time I had the footage, the messages, everything. I pulled out my phone, played the video of her in the equipment room, showed her the message from Tom on her phone. Her face twisted, and for a second she looked genuinely surprised, then pissed off. She started with her usual BS, "Mike, you're insane. This is all just a misunderstanding, you're jumping to conclusions." She tried to brush it off, but I wasn't having it. I told her I knew everything. I told her I saw her with Tom, that I saw the message, that I knew she'd been lying the whole time. Her eyes flashed with anger and she shot back, "You don't know what you're talking about. Maybe someone hacked my phone, or maybe you're just paranoid. You always think the worst." She tried to gaslight me like always, but I was done with her lies, her reaction. She got bitchy, that sharp, dismissive tone she always uses when she's mad. "Fine," she snapped. "If you're so convinced, then maybe I should just leave. I don't need your stupid accusations. I'm tired of pretending I care about this marriage if all you do is accuse me of cheating." That's when I saw that she was serious. She couldn't even pretend anymore. She'd been caught and she knew it. I felt this mix of rage and sadness. Just seeing her like that, so full of herself, made me realize how little she truly cared about us. She was more interested in her little affair than her own family. I never thought I'd be the guy to throw his wife out, but I was done pretending she was innocent. I told her she could pack her things, that she was free to go if she wanted a man who didn't trust her. She sneered at me, tried to act like she was the victim, but I saw right through her. After she stormed out that night, I sat alone in the living room, feeling like I'd been hit by a freight train. It was the kind of heartbreak that leaves you numb. I'd loved her, I really had, or at least I thought I did. Now I wasn't sure I knew her at all. My mind kept circling back to the kid, Jimmy, who idolized that coach, the guy who was now the reason our life was falling apart. And the worst part, deep down, I knew this wasn't just about her cheating. It was about trust, something she'd broken beyond repair. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew I couldn't keep living in this fake world anymore. I had to find a way to pick up the pieces somehow. The days that followed were a blur of anger, confusion, and quiet despair. I went through the motions, talked to a lawyer, started planning what was next. I knew I couldn't stay in that house with her anymore. Not after what I'd seen, not after the way she lied and spun her stories. I was angry at her, but mostly I was hurt, deep, aching pain that I couldn't shake. The image of her with Tom kept flashing in my head, the way she'd looked in that footage, the way she'd lied to my face. I kept asking myself how I missed the signs for so long, how I let her get away with everything. I also couldn't help but feel this strange sense of betrayal. I dedicated myself to her, to our family, and she'd been cheating on me with the very person I trusted to teach my son the right way to play football. Sometimes I wondered if I'd been blind on purpose, if I'd ignored all the red flags just to avoid facing the truth. But the truth was, it hurt so much I didn't want to believe it. Still, I knew I had to do something, had to make a decision about what was best for me and Jimmy. I started talking to close friends, people I trusted. Some said I should just divorce her, cut my losses, and move on. Others told me to fight for my family, that maybe she'd realize what she lost and come back to us. Honestly, I didn't know anymore. Part of me wanted to just walk away, forget I ever knew about her affair. But another part, much louder, wanted her out of my life. Entirely. I couldn't stand the thought of her still stringing me along or pretending like everything was fine. One night I confronted her again. I told her I was done, that I was filing for divorce. She looked at me with that same bitchy smirk, the one that said she thought she could manipulate her way out of anything. She started crying, of course, fake tears, the kind she throws on just to make herself look innocent. She begged, accused me of overreacting, said she'd never cheat, that I was just jealous of Tom, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I told her she was a liar, a manipulator, and I didn't want her in my life or Jimmy anymore. I was done playing her game. That night I packed a bag, told her she could keep the house, but I was taking Jimmy and leaving. I just couldn't stay there anymore, not after everything. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done, walking out, feeling like I was losing everything I ever cared about. But I knew I couldn't keep living in this fog of lies and betrayal. It was better to start fresh, even if it hurt like hell. I promised myself I'd do right by Jimmy, make sure he knew his dad loved him and would always be there, no matter what. That's all I could do now. The pain was real, the betrayal cuts deep, but I was finally free from her grip, free to rebuild or at least try. The days that followed were some of the toughest in my life. Moving out, sorting through everything, and trying to keep it together for Jimmy felt like a constant battle. She kept calling, begging, crying, saying she'd change, that it was all a mistake. But I'd heard enough lies. I realized that her version of change was just another manipulation, another way to keep me dangling in hope while she kept her affair going behind my back. I couldn't afford to fall for it again. Jimmy, thank God, handled it better than I expected. He's only 10, but I could see he was confused and upset. I told him the truth, just enough to explain why we were leaving without putting her down or making him hate her. I wanted him to understand that some people make bad choices, but that doesn't mean they're bad people. I promised him that. No matter what, I was his dad and I'd always be there for him. That's what matters most now. Protecting him from all the chaos and making sure he knew he's loved. Looking back, I realize how much I learned about trust, how fragile it can be and how quickly it can shatter. I was blindsided by her lies, her manipulation, and her blatant betrayal. But I also learned about resilience. Despite everything, I managed to pull myself out of that dark hole, rebuild my confidence and focus on what truly matters, my son and my own sanity. In the end, I think what hurt the most was knowing I'd given so much. My trust, my love, my stability. And it was all thrown back in my face. But I also learned that sometimes, the only way to survive is to walk away from what poisons you, no matter how hard it is. It's not about winning or losing. It's about saving yourself from the destruction of someone you once thought was your everything. So here's what I want to say to anyone dealing with something similar. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, don't ignore it. Confront it head on, get proof if you need, and don't be afraid to walk away if you find out the truth. Love is built on honesty, and if that's gone, everything else crumbles. Keep your dignity, focus on your kids, and remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away. That's what I did, and while it still hurts like hell, I know I'll be okay. Because I've got my son, I've got my self-respect, and I've finally taken back control of my life.